Like, share and subscribe for more great content. Turn on notifications to never miss another Cobra Kai video again. Help get this video to 100 likes if you would like us to keep releasing more Cobra Kai videos like this one. Please help other fans discover these Cobra Kai videos by sharing them on social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, and others. Today's story begins after the end of Season 2. After losing the dojo and his girl, Johnny finds help from an unlikely ally. Amanda is skeptical about Daniel's past, while Miguel fights for his life. This Cobra Kai fanspiration was written by J.D. Marco. Remember to support the writers on social media. And now let's begin. Disheveled and heartbroken, Johnny walks away from his car and phone. Hours pass after wandering the streets aimlessly as the summer sun is setting. Johnny winds up in the last place he expected, LaRusso's house. LaRusso's son, Anthony, walks down the driveway to take out the garbage. Staring at his phone, Anthony doesn't even notice Johnny standing in front of him and walks off. Turning back the other way slightly, still in disbelief that this can't be a sign, Johnny stumbles up the driveway and towards the front door. Before he can ring the doorbell, a voice calls his name. Johnny. It's Amanda. She's standing behind him, holding mail in her hand. Oh, whispers Johnny, as he turns around. Amanda can see the redness in his lenses and the tired bruises under his eyes. If you're looking for Daniel, he's not here. No, well, I mean. Do you know where he is? He's at the hospital. Johnny nods solemnly. Amanda's arms are now crossed defensively. If there's nothing else, John, I'd like you to leave. Hearing the conversation from the front door, Anthony opens the front door to find his mother and Johnny talking. Mom, what's this dickhead doing here? Asks Anthony with disdain. Johnny turns around and sees Anthony. Anthony, go back inside, says Amanda. My sister almost got killed because of you, asshole, yells Anthony. Johnny looks to the ground defeated at Anthony's words. Anthony, that's enough, says Amanda. No, he's right, it's my fault, says Johnny. Anthony rolls his eyes and walks off. Amanda looks deeper at Johnny to see that tears are rolling down his sunburnt cheeks. Johnny sniffles deeply and wipes his eyes. Look, Johnny, I'm sorry about Miguel, I really am, but if you ever set foot in my house again, I'm calling the police. Your rivalry with Daniel, and your goddamn dojo, has caused me and my family more trouble than. It's not my dojo anymore, interrupts Johnny. Amanda is taken aback. Johnny stumbles away. At the hospital, Daniel sits at Sam's bedside, as she sleeps. His phone rings. Amanda. Hey, hun, says Daniel. Babe, I need to tell you something, and I need you to keep your cool when I tell you, says Amanda. Daniel squeezes his eyes and inhales sharply at the sound of possibly more bad news. Johnny came by, says Amanda. Let me guess, he's looking for Robby, says Daniel. Actually, he was looking for you, but what? Amanda is trying to recall exactly what he said. When I mentioned his dojo, he said it's not his anymore, says Amanda. Confused at first, but then horrified that his worst nightmare has come true, Daniel gets up out of his seat. Where did he say he was going? Asks Daniel. I don't know, he just walked off, that was 10 minutes ago, says Amanda. I need to find him, I'll explain later. Daniel hangs up and leaves. Amanda is confused by Daniel's concern for Johnny. Continuing to walk aimlessly, Johnny is now in another part of town that has very few streetlights and a lot of darkness. Looking straight ahead, Johnny sees a shadowy figure, a group of 5 men, walking towards him with flannel shirts and ripped jeans. Similar to the punks Robby used to hang out with. You lost, pal? Asks the leader. Johnny looks at them with contempt. None of your business, man, says Johnny. Hey, no need to be hostile, bro, says the leader with a hint of sarcasm. Yeah, we just want to see if we can help, says the second. Knowing that they are trouble, Johnny tries to stand tall. You know, you guys are pissing off the wrong guy, on the wrong day, says Johnny. Oh, is that so? Asks the leader. Before he can continue, Johnny is kicked in the back of the knee by a henchman and put in a rear naked choke. Johnny doesn't struggle and headbutts the henchman from behind and slithers out, punching him in the temple. The second punches Johnny in the back of the head when he wasn't looking, knocking him to the ground. Not staying down, Johnny tackles the leader and punches him in the groin. A larger henchman chokes Johnny and pins him to the wall. Driving around, Daniel looks around and sees a commotion, involving a group of 5 thugs, holding a man against the wall. Having an epiphany involving October 31, 1984. "Get him up," says Johnny. "Leave him alone, man, he's had enough," says Bobby. Fearing the worst, Daniel pulls over, parks the car nearby and gets out swiftly, yet quietly. Getting a closer look, his instincts confirm that it is Johnny who is now being held by the shirt, barely conscious. "You should never come in my neighborhood, pretty boy," says the leader. Not wanting to make a sound, Daniel crouches on the bonnet of a nearby car. "When I'm done with you, you ain't going to be pretty no more." Before the leader can land a blow, Daniel lands a head-level kick to his head and stumbles over, landing into a fighting stance. The other 4 ready themselves. "Let him go," says Daniel. "Or what?" asks the second. "I'm not going to ask again, pal." The leader signals for one of his crew, a tall, bulky man, to go after Daniel, who is remaining calm and collected. Johnny, slowly regaining his focus, notices Daniel. "LaRusso," whispers Johnny. The bulky man takes a swing at Daniel, who blocks and counters with a stomach punch and a kick to the groin, and a crescent kick to the face. Johnny is impressed, and decides he wants in on the action, by elbowing one of the crew and kicking another. Daniel notices that Johnny is okay, as they are now back to back in fighting stance. "You okay, Johnny?" asks Daniel. "You still can't leave well enough alone, can you?" asks Johnny. Daniel looks at him with, "Are you serious right now, look?" Johnny smirks, and Daniel rolls his eyes and chuckles. "I'm kidding, man," chuckles Johnny. "You ready?" asks Daniel. "Let's do it." A fight breaks out. Daniel handles 2 at a time with a series of blocks and counters, while Johnny lands a series of blows on 2 at a time. The leader hangs back, watching and waiting. Daniel manages to take 2 down, as the leader strikes unexpectedly, kicking Daniel over. The leader stands over him, while Daniel crawls away, trying to get up. "Not bad, old man," says the leader. Not giving up, Daniel rolls over and stands up. Trying one last resort, Daniel raises his left leg slightly and stays in stance. The leader charges at Daniel, and he lands a modified crane kick, knocking the leader down. Although it was a direct hit, Daniel has pulled his hamstring. Johnny has managed to knock down the last 2. Noticing Daniel is limping, Johnny runs over and checks on him. "You okay, man?" asks Johnny. "I think I pulled my hamstring," says Daniel. "Shit, you're not going to be able to walk for a week." "Wouldn't be the first time." Johnny is hurt by that remark, and Daniel realizes what he said. "Sorry, that was uncalled for," says Daniel. "You're damn right it is, asshole," says Johnny. "Okay, look, let's just get out of here, before the cops show up." While all 5 men are squirming on the ground, Daniel limps on. Johnny feels guilty. "Okay, stop," says Johnny. Johnny grabs Daniel's arm hand and puts his arm on around his neck. "Lean on me," says Johnny. "Can you drive?" says Daniel. "Not yet." Daniel sniffs Johnny and can deduce he has been drinking. "How much have you had?" "Enough." "Oh, my God." Once they reach the car, Daniel unlocks the doors and they both enter. "We need to talk," says Daniel. "My place or yours?" asks Johnny. Daniel starts the car and they drive off. Arriving at LaRusso's house, Daniel and Johnny exit the car with Daniel's limp appearing to be getting worse. "Jesus, LaRusso, you were doing 15 in a 30 zone," says Johnny. "Hey, I just screwed up my leg trying to save your life, give me some credit," says Daniel. "I helped you to your car, didn't I?" Daniel chuckles softly in agreeance, as Johnny continues to help him into the house. As they enter, Daniel turns off the alarm and Johnny enters. There's a sense of awe. "Jesus, I keep forgetting what a palace this is," says Johnny. "Yeah, it's a bitch to clean, though," says Daniel. "You clean. I happen to like keeping a neat house, okay." Johnny rolls his eyes, while Daniel checks his phone. There are 10 missed calls and 20 messages from Amanda. Each message reads, "Where are you, Daniel? What is going on? Answer your phone." "Shit," whispers Daniel. "What is it?" says Johnny. "I'm in big trouble, Johnny." "What did you do?" "Literally, 2 hours ago, I promised Amanda, no more karate. I've already broken my promise. She'll come around. Look, you don't know her the way I do, John. She's a cool chick, man, you'll be fine." "Alright, look, Johnny, we got to talk, this. You got any banquets?" Hearing his question, Daniel is at first irritated, then beat when he realizes he does. "In the kitchen," says Daniel. Back at the hospital, Anthony is asleep by Sam's bedside holding her hand with Amanda now on the opposite side. While looking across the way, Amanda sees a familiar face. "Carmen?" asks Amanda. Carmen Diaz is standing behind her with flowers. "I hope you don't mind," says Carmen. "No, please, they're beautiful," says Amanda. Carmen hugs Amanda, and she reciprocates. "I'm surprised you're not angry at me," says Amanda. "I'm not angry at you, Amanda, and I'm not angry at Daniel, either," says Carmen. Amanda raises her eyebrows with curiosity. "I'm angry at Johnny," says Carmen. "Sit down," says Amanda. Amanda guides Carmen to a nearby seat, who proceeds to put the flowers down. "Even though he has caused my son so much trouble, I still care for him, so much," says Carmen, becoming teary. Amanda brings her in for another hug, and Carmen reciprocates. Johnny follows Daniel into the kitchen. As they enter, Daniel opens his fridge and pulls out a 6-pack of Coors Banquet in bottles. "You were giving me shit the other night because I drink these," says Johnny. "Actually, these are yours," says Daniel. Johnny is confused. "Amanda bought them to say thank you for taking care of Sam," says Daniel. "Sure, Amanda bought them," says Johnny. Daniel realizes that Johnny knows when he is lying. "Don't drink them all at once," says Daniel. Johnny is touched that Daniel bought him his favorite beer to say thank you. "Have one with me," says Johnny. "Nah, I'm good," says Daniel. "Come on, man, it's been a long day, we could both use a cold one." Daniel shrugs and reluctantly accepts. After they open up their beers, Daniel realizes that Johnny is the closest thing he has to a friend right now, raising his bottle. "To burying the hatchet," says Daniel. "Thank God for that," groans Johnny. Both Johnny and Daniel gently toast and take a swig of their beers. Daniel is surprised by how smooth and sweet it is. Johnny smiles. "I'm sorry about the dojo, Johnny," says Daniel. "Amanda told you?" asks Johnny. "What she didn't tell me, I figured out on my own." "What do you mean?" "Kreese took it back, didn't he?" Johnny is shocked by how well Daniel put 2 and 2 together. "You told me he was gone for good," asks Daniel. "He got in Zarkarian's ear, when Johnny stops mid-sentence thinking about Tommy's passing. "When, what?" "Never mind." "Okay, look, I can talk to Armand, and see if he can." "Forget it, LaRusso, I'm done with Cobra Kai." Daniel didn't expect to hear those words come out of his mouth. "Really?" asks Daniel. "Look, Johnny stops mid-sentence and admits the truth that he knew deep down. "You were right, I should have never brought back Cobra Kai," says Johnny. "Johnny, it doesn't matter." No, I'm sorry I didn't listen to you, even Bobby and the guys tried to tell me I made a mistake bringing it back. I'm sorry too, I thought bringing back Miyagi-Do was the right thing, but I know if Mr. Miyagi was here, he would be so disappointed in me." Johnny can see that this is eating at Daniel, but he doesn't quite know how to handle it. "From what you've told me, he doesn't seem the type that would disappoint easy." "I guess so." Johnny is starting to see the predicament that they are in and reflects on everything that has happened by taking another swig of his beer. "You know, I've lost my son, I've lost my best friend, I've lost my girl, and I've lost the one thing that made me what I am," says Johnny. Hearing the words that he has said, Johnny slumps on the kitchen table. "Now I have nothing," says Johnny solemnly. Trying to put on his Miyagi hat, Daniel puts a hand on Johnny's shoulder. "Yeah, you do," says Daniel. "What, you?" asks Johnny. "Once I knew what Kreese did to you. Again, I had to find you." Johnny is starting to feel uncomfortable with Daniel going soft on him and shrugs him away. "I don't need your pity, man," says Johnny. "Okay, tough guy, I am just saying you're not alone in this," says Daniel. "Look, this is not your fight, LaRusso." "Yeah, it is, you have no idea what that son of a bitch did to me." "I know, he showed up in your dojo and threatened you." "I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about what he did to me." Johnny is completely lost and can't understand what he's talking about. "Johnny, there's something about Kreese that you don't know," says Daniel. Johnny has his suspicions, but isn't surprised that Kreese hurt Daniel. Daniel's phone goes off again, and he answers it. It's Robby. "Robby?" asks Daniel. "Mr. LaRusso," says Robby. "Let me talk to him," says Johnny. "Hold on, your dad's here." Daniel hands him the phone, and Johnny talks to him. "You okay, Robby?" asks Johnny. "Dad, I tried calling your cell, you weren't answering," says Robby. Johnny realizes where he left the phone, back at the beach in the sand. "Shit," says Johnny. "What?" asks Robby concerned. "I threw it away," says Johnny. "Why?" "It doesn't matter, where are you?" "I'm at the LaRussos." Hearing this, Johnny runs out the house and Daniel follows, but struggles to walk. "Johnny, where are you going?" Running into the family dojo, Johnny sees Robby sitting on a bed. He is just as disheveled and depressed as his father. Not wasting another minute, Johnny races towards Robby and holds him. "I'm so glad you're all right," says Johnny sobbing. "I'm so sorry, Dad," says Robby, also quietly sobbing. "It's not your fault, son. I was just trying to break up the fight, I didn't want to hurt anyone." Daniel arrives and sees them having a moment. He smiles tenderly, realizing that being a parent and sensei aren't the same thing, so he doesn't interrupt them. Once they break apart, Robby notices Daniel. "You still got your key," says Daniel. "I was going to give it back, I just," says Robby. "It's okay, Robby, I know." Despite being happy to see his sensei, Robby then snaps back to reality. "I'm in a lot of trouble, aren't I?" asks Robby. "Look, Robby, what happened at the school, it was an accident," says Daniel. "It's my fault that Miguel is in a coma." "No, Robby, it's my fault." Johnny is surprised that Daniel is playing martyr to Robby's misdeeds. "When I yelled at you about Sam, I overreacted, your dad took care of her, and I should have been more understanding," says Daniel. "Because you took me in," says Robby. "Exactly, I mean I go on and on about there's no such thing as a bad student, only a bad teacher, and I go ahead and hurt the best student I ever had." Robby is very touched by Daniel's words. Johnny is irritated by the sentiment. "Okay, can we skip the all my children moment and get back to reality," says Johnny. "Thanks for ruining the moment, Dad," snaps Robby. Johnny snaps his head back by Robby's words. "No, Robby, he's right, there's a lot we need to talk about," says Daniel. "You were telling me that there's something about Kreese that I don't know," says Johnny. Robby thinks and comes to the conclusion. 1985, says Robby. "What?" asks Johnny. "The All Valley in 85, when you joined Cobra Kai." Johnny is horrified to learn the truth about Daniel's past. "What is he talking about, LaRusso?" asks Johnny. "Mr. Miyagi wouldn't," says Robby. "Is your name LaRusso?" Robby shoves Johnny off of him. "Hey, don't be such an asshole," yells Robby. "Robby, take it easy," says Daniel. "Oh, yeah, always acting like a goddamn hero, LaRusso," says Johnny. "Why don't you ever call him by his first name, Dad?" asks Robby. "It's okay, Robby." "No, it's not, Mr. LaRusso, he needs to start showing you some goddamn respect." Johnny is gritting his teeth and trying to compose himself. "Robby, listen to me, your dad is hurting a lot right now and you need to go easy on him," says Daniel. "Yeah, I know, he blames me for what happened to Diaz, I know he does," says Robby. "That's not true, Robby," says Johnny. "Isn't it? You never even wanted me around until Mr. LaRusso took me in." Johnny is hurt by those words to the point where he is in tears, and Daniel goes over to him. "Johnny, there's something I want to show you," says Daniel. Amanda is consistently checking her phone, while Carmen arrives back with coffee. One of the perks of working in the hospital is the discount on coffee, says Carmen. Amanda smiles, as Carmen hands her a cup. Thank you, says Amanda. Carmen sits next to her, as Amanda holds her phone tightly. Daniel not responding, asks Carmen. Ever since Cobra Kai opened, he has not been the man I married, says Amanda. What do you mean? He says that Cobra Kai is dangerous and is going to ruin these kids' lives. Carmen shrugs. I hate to say it, but I agree with him, says Carmen. You can't be serious, asks Amanda. Miguel is in the hospital because of Cobra Kai, says Carmen. I thought you blamed Johnny. Well, partly, yes, but Miguel has not been the same as I remember. He's hardened and has that look in his eyes like he's ready to hurt someone. Amanda feels off-put by what has just been said, but then shrugs it off. Honestly, I blame both of them. Their stupid rivalry has gotten so out of hand, that it has hurt so many people. Well, let us hope it's done for good. Driving to Mr. Miyagi's house, Daniel, Johnny and Robby get out of the car and enter the house, including Daniel's old room. Been a while since I have been in here, says Daniel. This is your old room, right? Says Robby. Yes, it is. Johnny looks around and can't help but be in awe. Beautiful, whispers Johnny. Daniel goes under his bed and pulls out an old sports bag. I have kept this under my bed for almost 35 years, and I swore that I would never take it out again. Daniel unzips the bag and pulls out a Cobra Kai training GI. Johnny is catatonic, and Robby is confused. You kept it? Asks Robby. Yeah, I did, says Daniel. Why? To remind myself of how much I hurt Mr. Miyagi, and myself. Johnny is overwhelmed even more by this. Kreese was your sensei too? Asks Johnny. No, actually, it was Terry Silver who taught me, says Daniel. Wait, that guy who got Cobra Kai banned? Turns out, I was being set up by Kreese and Silver, just so I could defend my title, which I really didn't want to. Johnny grabs the GI off Daniel. What are you doing? Asks Daniel defensively. You want to keep it? Asks Johnny. Not really, but that's not the point. Dad, stop being such an asshole, says Robby. Robby, don't talk to your father like that. He talks to you like that all the time. What's the difference? The difference is he is your father, and like it or not, he always will be, so be respectful. Robby grits his teeth and inhales sharply, just like his father. I say we burn it, says Johnny. Daniel is taken aback. Johnny, are you out of your mind? Asks Daniel with disbelief. Let the past be the past and we can all move forward, says Johnny. Hearing what Johnny is saying, Daniel can't help but make sense of what he is saying. I just don't want to forget what I did, that's all, says Daniel. Daniel, let it go, says Johnny. Hearing Johnny call him by his first name ever, Daniel nods in agreement. Back at the hospital, Sam is slowly waking up, and Amanda and Carmen notice. Anthony is still asleep. Mom? Asks Sam with a weary voice. Oh, my baby girl, says Amanda. Amanda plants a kiss on her forehead. Sam notices Anthony holding her hand, and smiles. He's just like your father, says Amanda admiringly. Where is Dad? Asks Sam. Honestly, I don't know. Sam notices Carmen. Mrs. Diaz? Asks Sam. Carmen comes over to see Sam, standing next to Anthony who is still asleep. Hello, Samantha, says Carmen. Sam begins to get teary about Miguel's condition. I'm so sorry about Miguel, it's all my fault, says Sam. No, don't blame yourself, at all, okay? If I hadn't kissed Miguel at the party, this would never have happened. What do you mean? He was with Tori and I cheated on Robby, I'm such an idiot. Sam breaks down crying. Amanda gently holds her close, while Carmen feels for this teenage girl carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. Anthony begins to wake up slowly. Sam? Asks Anthony. Sam notices her little brother looking up at her, and sniffles. Hey, baby bro, says Sam. I hate when you call me that, says Anthony. Sam pecks Anthony on the cheek. In a nearby recovery room, Miguel is in a stable condition with a neck brace on. His brow twitches slightly. Back at Mr. Miyagi's house, Daniel is burning his old Cobra Kai GI, while Johnny and Robby look on. Now, what do we do? Asks Robby. We take down Kreese and Cobra Kai, for good, says Daniel. No, says Johnny. Daniel looks at Johnny. What do you mean, no? Asks Daniel. That's what he wants us to do, says Johnny. Daniel is beginning to see the logic, but still doesn't believe this is the right idea. What are you saying, we wait? Asks Daniel. Exactly, we need to come up with a plan, says Johnny. Like an element of surprise, says Robby. Now, you're thinking. I don't know, Johnny. Look, I know you want to go in there and give another one of your speeches, but it's not going to work. Daniel runs his hands through his hair and even scrunches it. Kreese will strike first, and you won't see it coming, says Johnny. Well, what do we do right now? Asks Daniel. Johnny puts his hand on Daniel's back. Trust me, says Johnny. Back at the hospital, Amanda leaves Sam's room and goes for a walk. She looks at her phone with no response from anyone. Out of nowhere, Kreese walks towards the reception desk with Hawk and Tori. Excuse, ma'am, do you know where I could find Miguel Diaz's room? Asks Kreese. Amanda hears this and is alarmed. Walking towards them. Sir, Mr. Diaz is in the ER and his mother has strictly said, no visitors, says the receptionist. Ma'am, Miguel is my student, and I miss him. So, you must be John Kreese, says Amanda with her arms folded. Kreese hears his name and looks over to see Amanda with a grim smile on his face. You've heard of me, says Kreese. By reputation, not exactly something to admire. Kreese frowns. Amanda is keeping eye contact with him, ignoring Tori and Hawk. No thanks to one of your students, my daughter is in the hospital, says Amanda. Ah, Mrs. LaRusso, what a pleasure, says Kreese with a slight chuckle and extends his hand. Amanda looks over at Tori, who is embarrassed by facing the mother of the girl she assaulted. Tori, is it? Asks Amanda. Tori tries to stand confident but is uncomfortable talking to Amanda. Your mom had better call her lawyer, says Amanda. Tori looks down at her feet and sighs with regret. Amanda then directs her attention to Kreese. And as for you, stay the hell away from my family, or we will press charges, says Amanda. Amanda walks away with her head held high. Kreese shrugs off Amanda's threat. After I'm done with Miyagi-Do, they'll be begging for mercy, says Kreese. Kreese walks towards the elevator. Hawk looks back and feels regret in his actions. Daniel drives Johnny and Robby back to the beach to fetch the Cobra-mobile. Surprisingly, it is still sitting there, despite the keys being left in the car and the window wide open. Daniel pulls alongside it and both Johnny and Robby get out. Daniel then turns the ignition off, remembering something Johnny said to Robby, and goes out on the sand. Robby goes next to the door and sees the broken bottle, while also smelling the alcohol, but doesn't say anything. Johnny notices his son's observation. Johnny, shouts Daniel standing on the sand, picking up Johnny's phone. Johnny looks over and sees him pick up his phone. Isn't this your phone? Asks Daniel. Johnny is amazed that Daniel found it. Daniel jogs over and hands it to him. Looking at the phone, Johnny sees 12 missed calls from Robby and one friend request on Facebook, but ignores it. Hey, I have been meaning to ask, are the cops looking for me? Asks Robby. Daniel looks at Johnny and then back at Robby. The police haven't filed any charges yet, but I got off the phone with the principal at West Valley yesterday, and you, along with 3 other people, have been expelled, says Daniel. Miguel? Asks Johnny. No, not Miguel, some kid named Eli, Tori, the girl that assaulted Sam, and unfortunately, my student, Dimitri, has been expelled too. Dimitri, why? Asks Robby. Well, apparently he kicked one of the Cobra Kai students into a trophy cabinet, says Daniel. Johnny smiles and chuckles. Daniel can't believe what he's hearing. Oh, come on, man, that's pretty funny, says Johnny. How is that funny? Asks Daniel. Have you seen the size of that kid? He's like the brain from the Breakfast Club. Okay, say what you will, but Dimitri is a damn good student. Yeah, he's damn good all right, damn good at not keeping his mouth shut. Whatever. Robby is feeling anxious and wants to know what is next. So, what are we going to do now? asks Robby. We're going home, says Johnny. Hey, you're not driving, while you're drunk, says Daniel. I'm sobered up. The hell you're not, give me the keys. No way. Johnny. Dad, just give it to him. Trust you, to take his side, over me. I'm not taking sides, he's right, you're drunk. Overruled by his son and ex-rival, Johnny hands the keys to Daniel reluctantly. Lock it up for me, says Johnny. Daniel can't believe Johnny is complying but winds the windows up and locks the door. Robby is surprised. Daniel comes in to find Amanda on the couch drinking a glass of wine. Honey, I'm so sorry, but Johnny needed my help and I got Robby. I want the truth, Daniel, says Amanda. Okay, I know you said, no more karate, but Johnny. No, not that, I'm talking about John Kreese. Daniel stares at Amanda. What about him? Asks Daniel. You know what I'm talking about, says Amanda. Well, what exactly are you talking about? I met him at the hospital tonight, and he referred to Miguel as his student. So you know that he took the dojo from Johnny. Look, I don't care, who took what from whom. Well, you should care. Daniel snaps. Amanda is shocked by Daniel's temper tantrum but humors him anyway. Okay, fine, I'm listening, tell me why John Kreese is such a threat to us. Daniel guides Amanda over to the couch, and she complies. Arriving home, Johnny and Robby enter the room. You want something to eat? Asks Johnny. Dad, it's after 10, says Robby. And? Well, it's kind of late to be eating. Are you kidding? I could go a burger right now. You do whatever, I am going to bed. Robby goes to his room. Johnny looks down the hallway. First thing in the morning, we're going to find you a new school, says Johnny. Robby slams the door without responding. Johnny scratches his head furiously at his son's non-response. There is a knock at the front door. What now, LaRusso? I told you we will talk. As Johnny opens the door, Carmen is standing there with a blank look on her face. Carmen, says Johnny. Are you done with Cobra Kai? Asks Carmen. Why yeah. I mean it, if you want to see Miguel, no more Cobra Kai. Yes, I'm done, I swear. Good. Carmen grabs Johnny's face and kisses him with passion. He reciprocates and then remembers Robby is in the other room. Wait, says Johnny. You're right, we should wait a while, I mean, says Carmen. Not just that, it's Mrs. Diaz, says Robby. Carmen sees Robby as he walks towards her. Robby drops his head, but Carmen lifts his chin, then hugs him. Robby reluctantly reciprocates, then Carmen lets go. I was half expecting to smack the shit out of me, says Robby. What would that prove? Asks Carmen. Robby feels a little embarrassed. See you at the hospital tomorrow, Carmen says to Robby, looking confused. Johnny is confused also. You want to make up for what happened, you can volunteer at the hospital for the next month, cleaning the rooms, assisting with the nursing staff and doing coffee runs. Deal. Robby faintly smiles. Deal. 9 a.m., don't be late. Carmen leaves Johnny's house and closes the door. Johnny cannot believe his luck. Carmen forgives him and Robby is making up for what happened. Back at the LaRussos, both Amanda and Daniel are sitting in the living room with glasses of wine and the bottle in front of them. Amanda cannot believe what Daniel has just told her, the full story of what happened in 1985 with Terry Silver and Cobra Kai. Babe, we have been together over 20 years, and you never told me this, says Amanda. It's not something I want to remember, honey, says Daniel. I know, but Jesus, what these men did to you, that's child abuse. Well, I was lucky Mr. Miyagi bailed me out. Bailed you out? Daniel, Mr. Miyagi should have gone to the police. Daniel jumps up at Amanda's response. And said what, Amanda? Asks Daniel. Amanda gets up slowly. That they were trying to kill you, attacked you, threatened your life. Asks Amanda. I had no proof. I did what I had to do, okay. I know, it's my fault for not doing the right thing. Amanda tries to reassure Daniel by grabbing his hands. No, babe, this is not your fault at all, what these men did to you is criminal, says Amanda. But there is nothing I can do about it now, You said, no more karate, exclaims Daniel. Okay, fine, fine. Here is what we're going to do. From 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., you are at work, and you are doing work. No karate, no personal business or whatever else. Any time before 9 and after 6, you do what you want, I won't get in the way. Daniel is skeptical. Why do I feel like there's a condition coming, says Daniel. You are going to call Johnny tomorrow, and you are going to ask him to come work for us, says Amanda. You're kidding, right? No, I'm not joking, you are calling him and making him operations manager at our North Hollywood site. Do you honestly think he would want to come and work for us? Well, call it olive branch for you two to finally get along and work together, plus without the dojo, he needs a job. Daniel begins to see some logic in Amanda's idea. Okay, but there is no guarantee he will say yes, says Daniel. Then tell him to do it for Robby, says Daniel. Amanda places her hands on Daniel's arms and they share a hug. At the hospital, Miguel is lying on his hospital stretcher with his neck brace on. Sam walks past and puts her hand on the glass, then walks away. Unconscious, Miguel begins to have flashbacks of the past year. First, the strip mall fight with Johnny and Kyler. Hey, watch the car, man, exclaims Johnny. Second, his 4-to-1 fight with Kyler and his cronies. I'm ready for your lame-ass karate this time, says Kyler. It's not lame-ass karate, it's Cobra Kai, says Miguel. Thirdly, the under-18 All-Valley tournament. There's nothing dirty about winning, sensei, says Miguel. No mercy. Fourthly, the day at Coyote Creek, has Miguel twitching and sweating. Finish him, orders Kreese. This isn't a tournament, this is real life, says Miguel. Is that how you want to live your life? Asks Johnny. Fifthly, the school fight with Robby. That's for taking advantage of Sam, yells Robby. She doesn't love you, she loves me, yells Miguel. Miguel begins to shiver and is reminded that Robby kicked him off the edge of the stairwell. Miguel, screams Tori. Finally, his training with Kreese at the dojo, while Johnny is away. You're all Cobra Kai for life, because Cobra Kai never dies, says Kreese. Hearing Kreese's words echo in his head, Miguel's eyes spring open and go from a look of anxiety and fear to a look of vengeance and hatred. And that's it. Did you enjoy this Cobra Kai story? Would you like us to release another part in this series? Let us know what you think in the comments. Like, share and subscribe for more great content. Turn on notifications to never miss another Cobra Kai video again. Help get this video to 100 likes if you would like us to keep releasing more Cobra Kai videos like this one. Please help other fans discover these Cobra Kai videos by sharing them on social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, and others. And we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.